All right, today we're diving into something pretty special. An ancient song that, you'll see, speaks directly to our world right now. It's a powerful piece about justice, hope, and something called an unshakable throne. We're breaking down Psalm 9.
It's a question we all ask, right? I mean, you look around, you see unfairness, corruption, people getting hurt, and it is so easy to feel completely powerless. But what's incredible is that thousands of years ago, a writer was wrestling with that exact same feeling, and the answer he found is just as powerful today. So first things first, to really get what this song is all about, we gotta start with where it even came from. Let's dig into this ancient song of justice. At its heart, Psalm 9 is a song, but it's this amazing mix of things. It's part victory chant, part heartfelt thank you, and part a cry for the vulnerable, all rolled into one. It celebrates a God who steps in as a righteous judge for people who have no one else in their corner. Now, the backstory here is really fascinating. Tradition says King David wrote this probably right after a huge military victory. But here's the twist. Instead of just bragging about how strong he was, he flips the script. He frames the whole thing around this much bigger idea that God's justice is always, eventually, gonna win out over human evil. The whole point is to totally change how we look at history itself.
So let's talk about the foundation of this song, because it starts with praise. Now, you might think a song about justice would kick off with a list of complaints or demands, right? But Psalm 9 starts somewhere totally different, with this really personal, heartfelt gratitude. I mean, just listen to these words. With all my heart. This isn't some half-hearted, mumbled thanks. This is a full-throated, passionate declaration. The writer is celebrating all the amazing things God has done, not as these abstract ideas, but as real, solid proof that he is faithful.
And this is absolutely crucial. The gratitude here isn't just a happy reaction to winning a battle. It's a choice. It's a deliberate act of faith that lays the groundwork for everything else. It's like saying, before I even get into the weeds about all the injustice in the world, I'm going to anchor myself in the truth of who God is and what I know he's done.
So that foundation of praise sets the stage perfectly for the Psalm's main event, this huge contrast between the unshakable throne and the reality of human evil.
And the psalm does not pull any punches here. It looks out at the world and it sees powerful enemies, arrogant nations, whole empires. And yeah, they make a ton of noise, they seem unstoppable for a while, but their influence is always temporary. They stumble, they fade away. And then you get this incredible contrast. While all those human kingdoms are crumbling, the psalm declares that God has set up his throne for judgment. And that throne, it isn't going anywhere. It's the one permanent, stable thing in a world that is always changing. Just think about the difference for a second. Earthly courts, well, we all know they can be biased, they can be corrupt. For an innocent person, they can be a source of real fear. But God's judgment is presented as something completely different. It governs with equity, with true fairness. And for anyone who's oppressed, that's not scary. That is the ultimate source of hope. The psalm uses this really vivid picture to show how injustice basically destroys itself. It's a simple but powerful process. The wicked, they dig a trap for someone else. But in the end, their own schemes are what trap them. They end up falling into the very pit they made. It's a picture of evil that just consumes itself. Okay, so if that's what happens to the wicked, what about the people they hurt? This is where the psalm shifts to its emotional core, and it offers this profound message of comfort and safety for anyone who's suffering. This is one of the most powerful promises in the whole song. And notice, it's not a vague hope for the future. It describes God's active role right now, in the present. He is a refuge, a safe place, a stronghold you can run to when it feels like everything else is falling apart.
And here's the promise that just cuts right through despair. In a world that so often forgets the poor and the hurting, this verse declares that their suffering is not the end of the story. Their hope will not be crushed. God remembers them, even when it feels like no one else does.
Okay, so this is an ancient song, right? About a king, his enemies. What does any of this have to do with us, here and now? Let's bring it all together and see what it means today. So here are the big takeaways. First, God's justice isn't just some philosophical concept, it's active. The psalmist says he actually defends the weak and hears their cries. Second, that whole praise thing we talked about, it's most powerful when justice feels like it's taking forever.
It's an act of defiance against despair. And finally, the core message is this call to trust, that no matter how chaotic things look on the surface, God's rule is unshakable. The psalm wraps up with this powerful prayer. And it's not really a cry for revenge. It's a plea for perspective. It's asking for God's justice to be made so visible that all of humanity has to recognize its own limits and its ultimate dependence on someone greater. And that's really the question Psalm 9 leaves us with. What actually shifts in our own hearts, in our communities, in our world, when we stop looking at history as just this messy story of human power games and start seeing it through the lens of a perfect, enduring, and compassionate divine justice? You know, it's a thought that can change absolutely everything.